You have to wonder whether or not Mamphela Ramphele would have got more airtime had she launched a political party in a week that didn't feature Oscar Pistorius. She did launch a political movement, however, in a very busy news week and has kind of disappeared from profile. Anthony Prangley is a director leading social change at GIBS. Bad timing on her part?
It was bad timing, but I think she needed to go ahead. You can't postpone these things, and the time was right.
Okay, so here's Mamphela Ramphele, who's announced the launch of a movement. It sounds like she's become a musical composer, not a politician.
I think movement was the right decision. It didn't come across as clearly as possible, but I think strategically she's wanting to host a conversation. She's wanting to build momentum. And what the theories of enrollment suggest is that you need to keep it a bit open-ended to encourage people to add their own flavour to the pot, so to speak. But I want to talk a bit more about her speech.
No, okay, but we'll talk about the speech as well, but just about the context in which she's launched it. She's launched this into a very robust political space, into a space where there is very little grey, that's either black and white. You're either for us or against us from a ruling party perspective. She's come in with a bit of a damp squib.
I think that the newspapers have been following it. I think that online it's been a little bit less followed. As of this morning, her YouTube video has 105 hits.
That's a bit tragic, isn't it?
It's totally tragic.
We're talking 72 hours after the launch of a political movement, and 105 people have bothered to watch a video of her talking about it.
But her Twitter followership and YouTube and Facebook followership have skyrocketed. So she has over 10,000 Twitter followers. The ANC is 50,000. And so this is a good beginning. On Facebook, she's up at 8,000. The ANC has 15,000. So I think there is tremendous appetite for what she's offering. I'm just not sure that the message is exciting.
But this is the point where she has an incredible struggle history. She was banished to a small town, like Winnie Mandela was banished to a small town. She happened to have had an affair with one of the highest profile struggle icons in South African history, and Steve Biko. They had a child together. She has credentials that make her the ideal political candidate, yet she hasn't communicated it very effectively.
I entirely agree. I think it was a fantastic speech, and if you listen to it, it's long, it's beautiful, it covers multiple angles, but I think the core messages are covered up by a whole range of things. So I think she went very wide, and Marshall Gans, this Harvard Kennedy School guru, if you like, on political narrative, says that you need a strategy and you need a story. And I think the questions that we've been debating in the press are, does she have a strategy? How is she going to create an operation? How is she going to build branches? But I want to think about the narrative. And the narrative really has three components. It's about who she is, who we are in relationship to the journey we're on, and why now is the critical time.
She's got all three of those going, but she's communicating them badly. Who she is quite a simple story if you tell it properly. Who we are is equally simple if you tell it properly. And where we're going is the great uncertainty upon which you can play if you communicate the first two effectively. And
she's got so much to work with. So I think the question is choice. Is she a brave citizen?
Yes.
Being called into action, even though she doesn't want to. Is she a small woman from a rural area who has risen to greatness? Is she a bridge between the old and the past? She covered all of these things, and I think she's going to need to pick one of them. Is she a listener? Is she the great listener? And so all of these are angles that she can work, and I think going forward she's going to need to pick one of them and really make it her stump speech and say, this is my story.
Is she not too clever for South African politics circa 2013? Too much of an intellectual to really fight the dirty fight that needs to be fought in what is politics today?
So that's the challenge that faced Barack Obama in many ways, and I think he's always struggled with it, although I think you can be smart and be connected and be popular and be local and grassroots. It's not always easy, and we see other US presidential candidates like Al Gore struggling to make that connection. But I think, so it can be done, and I think Mandela did it too. I don't think she did it in that speech.
But here's a situation where you've got somebody with great intellect who finds it difficult to speak ordinary language. And one of the greatest skills of the best politicians ever born is their ability to convey complex issues simply and clearly and concisely. And I'm afraid she needs some coaching.
Well, academics, you know what we're prone to, Bruce. You know, this is the problem. We love to pontificate and tell you all the nuances. And so I think it's a challenge that academics face in general. They like to cover good ground, and getting simple and clear is critical.
The basis of any political campaign is head follows heart. You've got to make me feel it before I start thinking about it. And she may have people's heads, but she hasn't got their hearts.
Politics is identity. And so we choose in two different ways. Sometimes we choose because of the rational arguments, and sometimes we choose because that's just what people like me do. politics is like that. That's the way that decision making happens in politics. And so that's a heart decision first. And then the rational must follow later. Then you must justify it rationally. But I've already made up my mind in the heart and I want to go with you. Now you've just got to tell me that it's okay, it's sensible, that I'm not making a stupid decision. And so I think the narrative component is that connecting with our hearts at the level of who she is, and then tell us some stories. Give us some vignettes. Create a picture. What was this village? What did this village look like? You know, what does her journey look like? What were the dark days? You know, people. That kind of story, those stories stick with us.
Give us something to relate to,
because
if you are an austere academic type, and Thabo Mbeki was an austere academic type, a very difficult guy to warm to, brilliant administrator, really good at running the place, however, very distant, very cold, very removed. The one thing Jacob Zuma's got going for him is he's incredibly warm, incredibly engaging, and he at least appears to listen. Now, we've got somebody who appears to be distant. People feel we've been there before and it didn't work for us. Why would it work for us this time? She's got a lot of work to do. She does have
a lot of work to do, I think, but I think she can make that transition because, as you say, she does have the narrative. It is there. It's just about sharpening it and getting it out there, and then reaching out to ordinary people to say, who are we? Who is this country that I'm trying to make an impact upon? And what is our journey? And I think she tried that. I think the speech had this element of let's rekindle the dream of who we are, of standing in queues, of waiting.
At best, she's got 14 months. Because there we are, April is our traditional election month. April 2014 is bound to be election month. It can happen even time between February and probably the beginning of July next year. ANC likes April as election month. That's where it plays to its advantage. She doesn't have time for this. She needs to get to the hustings and start fighting dirty.
I question this dominant assumption that you need time, because I think that you can excite people very quickly, and that before they can figure out and have time, they could be putting their ex by your name. And so I think that you need time to do certain things, but a lot of those things can be done after the election. So I think she has enough time, and I think the dimension of storytelling that's critical is the urgency of now. We are at a fork in the roads at this moment, and I'm asking you to make a choice. She's got to sharpen that choice point. She's got to create the burning platform, as Kotta said, and say, this is the choice. These are the two paths. And if we go down there, this is what it looks like, people. And if you come with me, we're going here. But this is the moment to make that decision. It's not about 2015 or 17 or 19. It's right now. Fascinating discussion. Anthony Prangley is a lecturer in leading social change at GIBS. If you're watching this and you've got Mamphela Ramphele's email address, send the attachment to her. She might pick up a trick or two to use in the next 14 months.